If you have any questions on that, please take a look at the app. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Joe Waters.
Great. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to How to Soar. Oh, no slides there. Oh, there we go. Okay, we're back. All right. So we're back to How to Soar with Your Cause Marketing program, and I'm going to be a pilot today, Joe Waters. And I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I write a blog called selfishgiving.com. I've been doing that since 2004. I actually help nonprofits and businesses put together win-win partnerships, and I've written a couple books about it. But I think the most important thing you need to know about me today is that I'm from Boston, okay? And that's going to affect my presentation in several big ways, okay, to your benefit, I hope. The first thing is I don't say marketing like you say marketing, okay? I say it the correct way. So I don't feel like I'm saying it incorrectly, but people tell me all the time that I'm incorrect. I was in a hotel a couple weeks ago in Chicago, and I went down to the front desk and I said to the clerk there, I said, "Can you tell me where the nearest Starbucks is?" And she looks at me and she says, "Starbucks? What's a Starbucks?" I said, "It's a coffee shop." And she said, "Oh, you mean Starbucks, right?" I was like, that's what I said, right? So you're going to have to, anytime there's an R in the middle of the word somewhere, it's really tough for me, okay? So you're going to have to be patient with me. The other thing that you need to know about a guy being from Boston like me, and I think it speaks to my credentials. I've worked with hundreds of nonprofits. I've worked with hundreds of businesses on cause marketing programs. But my most important qualification today is that, as you know, I'm a winner, okay? Because I am from Boston. Please save your applause for the end of my presentation, okay? Because in Boston, we just take boos as applause, right? It's all these good things, but I'm a winner, okay, because I'm from Boston. So today, I'm going to teach all of you how to be winners, all right? But there's a problem with being from Boston nowadays. The fact is I've resigned to myself to the fact that we are cheaters, all right? We're cheaters. I mean, there is so much evidence out there that people from Boston are cheaters. You had Rosie Ruiz, who took the subway to the finish line of the Boston Marathon. Do you know that some people have even said the New England Patriots cheat? I mean, this is incredible, right? Do you know Boston elected a mayor that was in prison for fraud? And then finally, the infidelity site, Ashley Madison, named Boston #1 in cheating, okay? I really had to think about this. And coming to the presentation today, I thought I would screw you out of 10 minutes of my presentation. And I said, wait a minute, I'm becoming a cheater here. I can't do this to these people. So one of the things I want to assure you today is that there will be no cheating, okay? But what I want to do today is I want to give you an edge. I want to give you an edge in whether you're working with a nonprofit or a cause for the first time, whether you're picking a nonprofit or cause for the first time, or if you just want to amplify the results, all right, and have a better partnership, a more successful partnership with a cause or a nonprofit. That's the goal today. So in order to do this, I'm going to put this in flight terms, all right? I do a lot of traveling, a lot of speaking and stuff like that. And I think the first thing that we should talk about is what exactly is cause marketing, especially in light of all the terms that we see out there from, cause-related terms like sponsorship and purpose and charity. So let's go through some of that. So the first thing is you hear a lot of talk today about purpose, right? And about businesses having purpose. And what is that? Purpose means that you have a goal beyond profit for your company, that you are contributing something either to the community or to the world. And many businesses have these purpose or vision statements, right? Home Depot is a good example of that. They have a mission statement for their business, but they also have a value mission that they share with these people. And you can see right at the bottom there, it talks about giving back to communities. So this is something that is really important. And, everything that comes after purpose, after your values, is how purpose is executed in the world. And charity is a great example of that. So the way Home Depot does that is they donate $250 million a year to charities. Okay, I mean, it's incredible what they've been able to give. And I think, regardless of what you come away with this program today, beginning with charity is definitely the first great step for your organization, all right? Because it really helps you understand everything that comes after it. Now, another thing that comes up, and we talk about a lot, is sponsorship. And sponsorship is when a company works through a nonprofit to target their audience at a particular event or program. And it's something that can be really valuable. And Home Depot is at Habitat for Humanity events all the time. Now, what we really need to remember about sponsorship, though, and this is going to be important later in my presentation, is that there's a balance here between charity sponsorships and marketing sponsorships. Some companies just want to give money away, and they do it in the form of sponsorship. Other companies want to target a particular audience with their sponsorship. And my hometown race, which is run by a nonprofit organization, the Boston Marathon, John Hancock got involved in the event very early, and their support of the event has been largely charitable. Although I'm sure during the year they've gotten some great marketing benefits out of it. Adidas, on the other hand, is very much in the event for the marketing benefits of it, right? They have 30,000 runners in that event that they want to target, although I'm sure Adidas is very happy to be connected with a fabulous race like the Boston Marathon. So for our purposes with cause marketing, what we do is we swap the position of the company. So what happens with cause marketing is the nonprofit works through the company to target the company's consumers, all right? And that's where the opportunity was. And I would argue, too, based on the money that we see raised here, that this is the most effective way to fundraise with businesses. This is where the largest pool of money is. So in terms of defining cause marketing, we'll define it as a partnership between a nonprofit and a for-profit for mutual profit. And what it really is about, folks, it's about win-win and work. So the idea with a cause marketing partnership, it's not charity. It's about both sides profiting. But it takes work from both sides. It takes work on behalf of the business, and it takes work on behalf of the nonprofit. So both of them have to work together. So a lot of these partnerships are long-term. And the greatest example of cause marketing that we see all the time are the register programs, right? You go out to a store or a restaurant or a supermarket, and they ask you at the register, would you like to donate $1 or $2? But there's all sorts of different ways that you can raise money. And what a lot of people ask is, where does cause marketing fit in the marketing mix? Is this something I should be doing? And the truth is over especially the past 5 years, cause marketing has become a legitimate part of the marketing mix, all right? And what we have is over decades of studies, we know that consumers respond and want cause marketing, especially with two key demographics, millennials and moms. They say more than anyone else, over 90%, that they want businesses doing these types of programs. Now, depending on the business you talk to, every business is different in terms of what they think the benefit is to their business. I've talked to people at Kind Bars before that said that they think cause contributes about 5% to the success of their business. Whereas you talk to someone like Jersey Mike's Sub Shops with 1,500 stores across the country, they say it contributes as much as 40% to the success of their business. So in terms of the bottom line benefits to your business, it can range, let's say, between 5 and 40%. And it's just not B2Cs. Some recent studies on this have shown that B2B marketers that use cause marketing, and remember, cause marketing is an extension of purpose, are much more successful. 82% of the people that are using it feel like it makes them more successful than without. So we've defined the different terms of cause marketing, right? And what we're looking at. Let me show you how this works. So this gentleman here is Mark Perlman. Mark Perlman runs a chain of stores in the Northeast called Ocean State Job Lots. Mark has a really strong sense of purpose. He's very philanthropic, gives back to the community. And one of the things that started our relationship with him when I worked at an organization called Boston Medical Center is 40,000 pounds of frozen chicken. Mark is a discount buyer. He found a great deal on frozen chicken, and he wanted to give it away to a food bank. But he couldn't find a food bank that could take that much quantity. So he started calling Boston hospitals, and he found our hospital, Boston Medical Center, and he gave the chicken to us. Well, over the years of working with Mark, he also became a sponsor of one of our key events that we have, a gala that raises $4 million a year, and Mark was a top sponsor at the $60,000 level. But after a little while, we went back to Mark and said, Mark, would you consider doing something in your stores to raise money for Boston Medical Center? And Mark came up with this charity pinup that you see on the right side here, right? He sells this in his stores during the month of December, and over 3 weeks, he raises over $400,000 for our organization. He's been doing that for over 15 years. So you can see the continuum here of purpose, charity, sponsorship, and cause marketing and the differences. Now, there are some other great examples of cause marketing out there. How many people have bought a Shamrock, right, at the counter? $1, $3, $5. These programs have been around for decades. Shamrocks have raised over $330 million for the Muscular Dystrophy Association, so they've been very successful. Another great example is Sunrays in the room today. Sunrays has a program with Save the Children where they, over the past 3 years, has donated $180,000 to them. So a very successful program. Another program I really like, and this is called the Cause product, is White Castle developed their own candle to benefit Autism Speaks. Do you know what it smells like? Hamburgers and onions when you write it, okay? This thing sells out every year and has raised consistently $50,000. I love to smell it while I have my KFC log in the fire with my Dorito lip balm on, right? All the different variations of that now. And finally, we even saw with the Super Bowl, right? That Kia was donating based on the number of yards in the game. They approached nearly 1,000 yards. They donated $1,000 per yard, and it was almost $1 million that they gave back to several select charities. So there's a lot of different ways to do cause marketing and be successful. So that's kind of the review of those different programs. Now that we've got a little training in it, let's talk about pre-flight here. And this is really the point where you want to pick a nonprofit partner. And I want to come up something with you to show you exactly how you would do this. And I came up with an acronym called TWA. I don't know how many people remember TWA as an airline. They actually went out of business in 2001, but the brand is still kicking around. But what I want you to remember, and after looking at this graph, you may think I want you to fly a plane, but it's not that complicated. But what we're looking at here is TWA, type of partnership, the way it was picked, and the attributes here. And what we have is about 8 different categories around it that you need to consider. Now, it doesn't matter where you begin in this process, but for our sake, we're going to begin at the type of partnership that you're looking for. And what you have to decide first is, do you want to work with a nonprofit or do you want to work with a cause? All right? The difference is this. Water.org is a nonprofit. Water conservation or water promotion in, say, third world countries is an example of a cause. But the difference is that it's really a continuum here, folks, right, between a nonprofit and a cause. So a great example, and at the top of the food chain for nonprofits, are brands that work with their own nonprofits. So Ronald McDonald House works with McDonald's, right? Wendy's works with the Dave Thomas Foundation. And the reason brands do this is because they want control. They want to be able to know that the nonprofit always is going to be a good entity that they can work with. And this is one way of doing it. And actually, a really popular thing that you see these days is a lot of companies are starting their own nonprofits. I have some misgivings about that, but it certainly is one option. Another example, so when we look at this too in terms of the continuum, it's way up, right? Another example, though, is just when a nonprofit and a cause work, a nonprofit and a business work together for some type of mutual benefit. All right, and the idea here is Stella Artois started working with Water.org because they noticed that their beer drinker was getting older and older, and they wanted to track a younger audience. And they found by working with Water.org, they became less of an old person's brand. So they had a really big result in mind in working with this particular nonprofit. And more brands are working with nonprofits for that very reason. So I would say that's probably about at near the top. But as we work a little bit further along to the cause end of things, we have companies like Vivint, who has a cause, empowering children with intellectual disabilities. But underneath, see how they have all the nonprofit partners? And what's good about this is in a lot of instances, they can filter in and out nonprofit partners on different years. So they're not reliant on any one partner. So they have an overarching cause that they can connect with. And another example of this is Dick's Sporting Goods, Sports Matters. They work with nonprofits, but they also work with schools. So the cause becomes much more important than any one particular partner. So we're getting further down the end here, but the truth is some brands don't have any nonprofits at all. Look at Domino's Paving for Pizza, right? They go out and they pave roads and fill in holes and potholes and stuff like that so pizza can be delivered safely to your house, right? And another example of I like of a company working with a cause is Country Time Lemonade is paying the fines that kids are accruing because of laws in their states preventing them from holding lemonade stands, right? An example, there's no nonprofit partner there, but it certainly is a cause, right? So what you need to think about as a company is you have to think along that continuum and think about, how do I really want to do this? And what I really suggest is, if you're really thinking about a nonprofit, just take the angle of a cause for a minute and think about how it would be better or different if you worked with a cause instead of a nonprofit. One of the things that I really want to encourage you, though, when picking a nonprofit, a cause, is you don't need to be matchy-matchy, okay? Does anyone remember Garanimals? Garanimals used to be like, you wear them as a kid. I still wear them, as a matter of fact. Blue shirt goes with, tan pants or something like that so they can match you up. That's how some people think with their cause. In the produce industry, people think you always have to work and feed hungry kids. Very, very noble cause, but not always necessary. As a matter of fact, it can benefit you sometimes to work with something different. One of my favorites is Dave's Killer Bread. Anyone familiar with the brand? Dave's Killer Bread was started by Dave Dahl, who spent 15 years in prison. And when he came out, he said, I want to give people a second chance. And he hires the formerly incarcerated for his business, right? But he also created this program called Second Chances. So it's very authentic to the business, but a lot of people wouldn't think of a bread business helping ex-cons, right? Along that same line, we have Ben & Jerry's doing a special ice cream for prison reform, right? You always think about that, right? What does it have? Does it have a file in it or something? I don't know. But it benefits prison reform, and it's called Justice Remixed. Another favorite of mine is Ace Hardware, works to save killer whales. You wouldn't think of a hardware store working with killer whales, right? And one of my absolute favorite is this company. It's called Formation, and they're a computer storage company, and they actually had a program, that was called See a Demo, Get a Goat. See a Demo, Get a Goat. So every time you watched one of their demos, through Oxfam, they would donate a goat to a needy family, all right? And this was astoundingly successful to them. In an industry that is known for its boring marketing, people were like, hey, you're the goat people. They'd be at trade shows. They'd be, wow, go see the goat people, right? So they made a connection. So sometimes relevancy is important, but not that important that you couldn't do something else. So what I'm really trying to get you thinking about with this section too is the synergy between these different things. So looking at a nonprofit or a cause, but also thinking about relevancy and whether or not you have to choose something that's relevant to your business. Okay, now that we finished type, next part we're going to go to is way, the way you pick your company and your nonprofit. And the way you do that, and what I've seen through my many years in the business, is it's either the CEO, it's the employees, or the customers, or a combination of the three. So we're familiar with the CEO model. A lot of times CEOs feel like they should be the one doing the picking. And during the Super Bowl, there was an ad for WeatherTech that talked about their support for the University of Wisconsin Vet Center. The vet center there saved the owner's dog, so he wanted to show their support for that organization by buying a $6 million Super Bowl ad, all right? So it's an example of a CEO making the decision here. At Jersey Mike's, the franchise owners choose the causes and nonprofits that they're going to support. At GameStop, which sports about 5 different nonprofits every year, they let their employees choose, all right? And then finally, someone like Amazon, Amazon Smiles, they let their customers choose. So with Amazon Smiles, you can support any nonprofit you want as long as it's a 501c3. So the point here is, and what I would really encourage you to do is, if you feel strongly about one certain way, I would love you to think about just a little bit different way of looking at it. So if you're a CEO and you want to make the decision, you should talk to your employees. You should talk to your customers to decide which nonprofits or which causes you want to work from, because I think that's really the best model. So the final ingredient here is attributes. And what we're really looking at here is passion, emotion, and audience. This is what, after all my years, I've determined the 3 things that people look for in a partnership with a cause or a nonprofit. Now, this is interesting because this is where you get into the balancing act between charity and marketing, right? It's kind of like what I was talking about earlier with sponsorship, right? Where sometimes you get charity sponsorships, sometimes you get marketing sponsorships. It's the same with cause marketing. Some of them are more charity focused, some of them are more marketing focused. And as an organization, you need to decide where you're going to fall on this. So let's talk about the passion first. Now, we've already mentioned one, right? We talked about the WeatherTech ad here. And I'm going to show you the video so you can know what I'm talking about. But it was a 30-second long commercial from the Super Bowl.
Hi, I'm Scout, and I'm a lucky dog. And it's not just because I found this cool stick, or that I was in the WeatherTech commercial on the big game last year. It's that I'm a cancer survivor, had a tumor on my heart, and only a 1% chance of survival. I'm alive thanks to a cutting-edge program at the University of Wisconsin School of Veterinary Medicine. Their research has the potential to save millions of pets' lives.
Pets make a difference in your life. You can make a difference in theirs. Donate now at weathertech.com/donate.
So you look at that. That is way down on the charity side, right? Because that owner was saying, I don't care if no one knows who the University of Wisconsin is. They saved my dog's life. I'm doing a $6 million Super Bowl commercial for them, right? So that's way down on the charity side. The next factor we need to consider is emotion. And emotion actually brings us up a little bit more toward the marketing side, because in a lot of instances, when people start talking about emotion, they're making a decision about what will really resonate with their audience. And the truth is, when it comes to cause marketing, especially things at the register, more emotional things resonate. You know, it's interesting. I had this conversation with the guy who started Movember. It's the charity for men's cancer. And he said, you know, Joe, people support women first, children second, dogs and cats next, and then men. And he said, we're just trying to get above the dogs. And I was like, good luck with that, you know. But, you know, you're definitely more making the decision here about doing this. And again, we see this in Super Bowl advertising, where Super Bowl advertising, it makes you laugh, it makes you cry, it does all these different things, but it engages you emotionally. And I want to show you it takes about a minute and a half, I want to show you the #1 emotional ad that was rated by advertisers from the Super Bowl this year, just to show you that connection.
Hey Google, show me photos of me and Loretta. Remember? Loretta hated my mustache. Remember? Loretta loved going to Alaska and scallops. Show me photos from our anniversary. Remember, she always snorted when she laughed. Play our favorite movie. Remember, I'm the luckiest man in the world. Come on, boy.
Emotion works, right? I used to see this all the time at Boston Medical Center. We had a bunch of different programs that we could promote with our corporate partners. And if a corporate partner didn't have a strong passion for a program, we would talk about the prescription food bank that we had at the hospital. This was unique, right? It served 100,000 people, but you needed a doctor's note to actually participate in it. And they look at that program and say, that's the program I want, because they know that hunger is a strong, emotional, visceral effect on people. And that was the connection that they want to make. And that's what you may do with your cause marketing program. Now, the third area that you want to think about with your cause marketing program is audience. And audience is all the way down on the marketing side, okay? Because you're thinking strategically about who you should work with. And here's what smart companies are doing, okay? They're looking for audiences to tell them what is good, profitable, and popular in the world. All right? Good, popular, and profitable in the world. That's why so many companies support St. Jude, right? A wonderful organization. They have literally hundreds of corporate partners that they work with because companies know what they're getting. And they know that St. Jude is delivering a large, passionate audience to them, which is really powerful. That's why, you know, as you see, it frustrates a lot of small nonprofits because they see St. Jude come into town and it's like, wow, they're raising all the money. You know, and a lot of people look at it and they're like, you know, St. Jude's a 70-bed hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, right? Why are they raising all this money? Of course, they're putting all that to really good use with the research they're doing, but they're not a huge entity. But they are an incredible brand that has a huge audience behind them. Another great example of this is a Kansas City lineman after the Super Bowl said he was going to fund the adoptions for over 100 dogs at a Kansas City shelter, okay? The chef, Rachel Ray, saw that and said, my company is going to provide all the food for those dogs. Okay, so she's seeing that audience there. She's saying that's an opportunity for us. We actually have a name for it. We call it cause jacking. All right, and Coors Light saw this and said, you know what we're going to do? We're to honor this person. We're going to fund the adoptions at 1,000 shelters this year. Right? So it's the way that they're looking at that audience. They're looking for opportunities. And the WeatherTech ad that I showed is a great example of that too. Petco came in and donated $250,000. State Farm came in and donated $50,000. So smart companies are looking for audiences that they can connect with. Now, you're probably not going to see a big Super Bowl ad that you're going to connect with. But one of the things you can do is go to the social media sites of nonprofits that you want to work with and look at the size of their audience, right? See how they're communicating with people. And, you know, I love this example from the American Childhood Cancer Organization. Not a huge organization, but they have 146,000 people on their Facebook page. And when you dig a little bit deeper into their audience and their posts, look at that, 802 likes, 173 comments, and 62 shares. That's pretty good. So this is a nonprofit that can really communicate with their audience. Another great example I love, believe it or not, National Audubon Society. Over the past 5 years, it's grown its social media audience from 35,000 to over 1 million, and it's raising $25 million because of it. A couple weeks ago, they asked their members to post their favorite bird. 163,000 members responded with one of 5,000 different birds. That's power. That's influence. This is a nonprofit that can influence their audience to do things, not only on behalf of themselves, but on behalf of their brands. And one of the examples I really liked in my research is Nature Right has a program with the Gary Sinise organization, Gary Sinise Foundation. And they did what we called an action triggered program. So what happens here is you buy one of their products and then you post a picture of it online with the hashtag growing gratitude, and then they donate some money to the Gary Sinise Foundation. And during the course of that promotion, they donated $20,000. But here's the smartness of something like this, folks. Gary Sinise has 600,000 people across all its social media properties. That's something that's impressive. So when you look at something like this, I'm not sure why Nature Right chose it. I'm sure they have a passion for what they do. It's a strong emotional issue because it involves veterans, but it's also got a really powerful audience, right? So it checks all those boxes off. So what I really encourage you to do when you're thinking about the nonprofit or cause that you want to work with is look at it from different angles, right? If you feel passionately about something, maybe you could still look at, is this going to be emotional with my audience? Will it resonate with them? And does the nonprofit partner have the right audience? Now, see, this is where the complications occur, right? The challenges occur because some people are like, look, Joe, that children's hospital up the road, they just saved my kid's life. That's why I'm supporting this organization, right? So, but other people are much more flexible in terms of the organization they support. So when you use this model, think about all the different things that are involved. But what I would argue is you really can't go wrong. Let's use the example of Mark Perlman again from Ocean State Job Lots. He chose Boston Medical Center, and over time he really developed like, wow, I'm really passionate about this organization because of what they're trying to do. But one of the things that Mark had trouble with in his stores when we were doing the pinup programs to begin with was people didn't know what Boston Medical Center was. They didn't know about our organization. There were a lot of hospitals in Boston. You know, our hospital was considered, you know, we served a poorer population, and we also did all the big traumas in town. They used to call it the gunshot hospital. Some people used to call it the Hospital of the Holy Ghost because that was the next thing you were going to see after you went through the door. Okay? That's why people recognized us. So Mark had to do a lot of work educating his employees and his customers about who we were. But the truth is, say that Mark wanted to work with another organization. Mark said, you know what, I'm going to continue my work with Boston Medical Center, but this time I want to choose something that my customers know I'm doing some good work with. So instead, maybe he chooses Rhode Island Food Bank, right? Because that's an emotional cause that's connected. Or maybe Mark thinks, I want to work with a charity that has an audience that can talk about me. So maybe instead he works with the Jimmy Fund, which is the premier fundraising organization in Massachusetts and has 700,000 people alone just on its Facebook page. Okay? So he's thinking through all the different options. But here's another way of looking at it. How about if Mark lets his employees do the picking instead? So instead, they pick Hasbro, the children's hospital in Rhode Island. Maybe instead, though, Mark lets his customers pick the charity. And instead, they say, Mark, we want you to support animal causes. And then Mark picks 3 different nonprofits to work with, and maybe he switches them out after a year. So the whole idea here, though, is you're going back and forth from the type to the way to the attributes that you're looking for. All right? All right, so we're ready to take off. We know what cause marketing is. We know how to pick a nonprofit partner. Now we have to figure out how we're going to work with them. All right, what's the opportunity here? Now, the truth is, there's a lot of different ways to work that companies can work with nonprofits. I met with the Boys and Girls Club not long ago. They're corporate people. They provided me with this nice graph here. And you can see all those different things, those 8 things that you see there, that's their goal. When they go into a company, they want to work with that company in all those 8 ways. And as you can see, cause marketing is just one of them, right? And remember, cause marketing is specifically working with customers. So there are opportunities there to work with employees, to work with senior leadership, all these different things. Now, one of the things that I've put together, and you'll get my slides afterwards, but the cause marketing matrix is something I've developed to show companies where they can do different programs and where the most money is. Now, the truth is we already talked about this, the most money is in what we call point of sale programs. Anyone that has a register and cashiers and checkout lines, that's where the most money is. People like Kmart have raised $100 million for St. Jude using checkout programs. Now, in your area and what you do, what I see a lot of times is what we call purchase-triggered donation programs. This is when you buy a product and a certain percentage goes back to the cause, right? So a great example of this is Wendy's, right? Wendy's and their Frosties. You buy a Wendy Frosty, 50 cents goes back to Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption. Another great example is, Budweiser has several promotions a year. They work with different organizations. When you buy a Budweiser, they'll actually donate a penny from each drink up to $1 million to the Folds of Honor organization. All right, so this is a way for them to raise money. Now, the challenge here, and this is what I want you to be careful of, the challenge with purchase-triggered donations is they tend to be the poster child for bad behavior in cause marketing. okay? So whenever I get a complaint or whenever anyone writes me a nasty email, it usually has to do with something purchase triggered. And KFC and Kentucky Fried Chicken and Coleman are a great example of that. A few years back, does anyone remember this promotion? It's called Buckets for the Cure. And what it was is when you bought a bucket of chicken, money would go back to Coleman. They were hoping to raise $8 million. But people really got upset about this campaign because they said, you know, there's like 1,000 grams of fat in Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket. Is this something that a health organization should be promoting? And there was a lot of controversy around this, okay? So it was really challenging. The other thing about purchase triggered donations is ambiguous language. And actually, Attorney General's office around the country is starting to come down on nonprofits and partners that use ambiguous language. So they'll say, like, a portion of proceeds goes to cancer causes in your area. Well, what's that mean? Well, how much? What cancer causes? In what area? How do you define that, right? So Attorney General offices across the United States are actually insisting that nonprofits be a lot clearer in how they describe these programs. And it's actually the New York Attorney General's office that has been most vigorous in prosecuting these cases and making sure that nonprofits and businesses use concrete language when it comes to purchase-triggered donations. Another challenge is with another problem with purchase-triggered donations is a lot of times not a lot of money goes back. You know, you buy an expensive bracelet and only $1 will go to the Humane Society. Or McDonald's got in some trouble a few years ago with Happy Meals. Every Happy Meal, the money goes back to the Ronald McDonald House, but unfortunately it's only a penny. You know, and you could see Budweiser was doing the same thing, but Budweiser was emphasizing the $1 million donation. So the good thing about someone like McDonald's is ultimately they sell a lot of Happy Meals. They're giving away millions and millions of dollars through that program, but all people heard was, you're only contributing a penny, right? You know, so people had a problem with something like that. Now, as I kind of give you a little snapshot of, you can get around this though by working with a great organization like Produce for Kids. Now, is Amanda here today? Where's Amanda? Amanda, there she is, right there. Now, Amanda was one of the first people who reached out to me when she knew I was speaking at this event, right, Amanda? And you were so nice and she was so helpful, and I got to learn about Produce for Kids. So if you're worried about doing a program and doing it effectively and legally, you can work with an organization like Produce for Kids. I mean, this is a real value to your industry that you have a turnkey solution right here of people that can help you do these programs effectively. Now, another option in which are most popular are what I call donate profits. Now, donate profits can take many forms. There are donate profit businesses like Newman's Own, the granddaddy of the field. So after expenses, all the profits go to charity. Now, you don't need to be that charitable. We see Chili's does donate profits days for St. Jude. They raised $350,000 last year. Jersey Mike's raised over $7 million last year. On the last day of March, they donate not just the profits, but all the sales from that day to nonprofits. And this year, they're actually shooting to raise over $8 million. And what's good about these types of programs, though, is they get noticed, right? They're big and they're successful, and they show that a company is really committed. And I think that's what consumers are really looking for. Other organizations have donate employee days, right? Where they say, you know what, office is closed today. We want you to go out and work with your favorite charity, as is the example with a company here called Otter Products. And then what I really like is I like how Deep River Snacks does this, okay? What they have is every bag of chips, 10% goes back to charity, 10%, and every bag is represented with a different nonprofit. So this is a way of getting on people's radar screens, and what I really like about them is that they're leading with giving first, right? They're putting their stake in the ground saying, hey, we're not a nonprofit, but we are leading by giving to good charities. And I'll be talking about them a little bit more in a minute. So those are just two examples of the different types of programs that you can do with causes and nonprofits. At the end of my presentation, I'm going to have a resource for you so you can learn about the 38 other ways that you can connect with nonprofits. Okay, so we've talked about what cause marketing is. We've talked about picking a partner. We've talked about 2 of the different ways that you could raise money with a partner, with a program. Now we're really cruising, all right? And to really cruise and get up there in the atmosphere, what all of you need to do is you need to pick a keystone content asset, some way that you're going to communicate with your audience about all the great things that you're doing, all right? Now, what's good about this is even if you're sitting back there today and saying, you know, Joe, this cost marketing stuff, I don't know. This is one thing, though, that I can really get behind for every business, because every business needs a place where they're building an audience online, all right? And here's a couple reasons why and a couple things to keep in mind. Brands used to own mass media. Now the masses are the media. Everyone with a phone is a publisher and can have influence over your brand. You need to be taking steps to be creating snackable, interesting, clear content for those people so they can be talking about, not one, your business, but also your cause initiatives. And you know, while Jeff Bezos famously said that your brand is what other people say when you're not in the room, the truth is your brand is what people are saying about you online. And you need to be thinking about that. And the other piece of advice I give you with content too is, it's funny because with nonprofits, I'm constantly training them like, you need to emphasize what you're doing for the corporate partner. You need to emphasize the benefit to them. So I always tell them to lead with a pound of self-interest and a teaspoon of idealism. But the truth for businesses is just the opposite. I think you need to lead with the idealism. Talk about the partnership, talk about the nonprofit, talk about the impact in the world, and keep the marketing piece at a minimum, all right? And what we see is this can be really effective. I'll give you an example of this. Does anyone remember, and I still think they have it every now and then, Patagonia had a program called Don't Buy This Jacket. Okay, this was the ad. This is what it looked like, don't buy this jacket. And what it was all about was asking consumers to bring their old jackets back into the stores so that they could repair them for them. You don't have to buy a new jacket, right? Come in, we'll fix your old jacket, all right? You know what happened, right? People bought a boatload of jackets, all right? And they got the jackets fixed, their old jackets fixed on something like that. So this was a great program. So the whole idea is we do cause marketing because it's something that's great at the top of the funnel to create awareness for our organization. But we need something else to drive it down. And this is where the keystone content asset happens. And why I emphasize this too is just focusing, if you're a small company, just one thing. You know, I love, I looked around your sector. Wish Farms has over 200,000 people on their Facebook page. Over 200,000. And they have over 12,000 people on their Instagram page. So what this is this is a way for them to connect with their audience, but also talk about their different cause initiatives, right? And smart retailers and businesses are actually creating dedicated channels just for cause information and news. Patagonia has this with a channel called Worn Wear, where it's all about how people are using their products to the extreme and fixing them and doing all sorts of different things to them. It's not about buying new stuff. It's about repairing and taking care of the stuff you have. And it's been a very successful program. So what you want to do is, with your purpose audience, you want to build that audience into an audience that knows, likes, and trusts you. And this is why cause is so effective. Now, I actually teach a lot of nonprofits about what they can learn from businesses. But one of the things I want to talk to you about today is what you can learn from nonprofits about picking your keystone content asset. Because nonprofits don't have a lot of money for marketing, all right? And they don't even have marketing staff. It's really frustrating in the nonprofit industry. But some smart nonprofits have said, you know what, we're going to focus on one thing and we're going to build an audience around it. One of my favorites, the New York Public Library has something called Insta-novels. So they were like, okay, we're going to assume people like to read, but they also like to be on Instagram. So let's put the reading on Instagram. So they took classic novels and serialized them on Instagram, right? And that audience, they grew their Instagram audience almost by 100%. It's over 400,000 people now. Build an audience, engage with that audience. Now they're working to monetize that audience. Another great example, I have a good friend. His name is Mark Horvath. He runs an organization called InvisiblePeople.tv. He helps the homeless, right? Mark is a one-person shop. he uses one content medium, video. Over the past year, he's accrued over 300,000 people on his YouTube page, and he's grown the number of views from 40,000 a month to 4 million a month, okay? One person, one nonprofit. Build an audience, engage with that audience, raise money from that audience. Another example that I really like, National Golf Association has built a microsite around getting more people who are stoned playing golf. Apparently you can play better golf when you're stoned, all right? So they have this whole site now that's dedicated to, hey, you want to go out and play golf? Hey, you should go out and play stoned. This is a great opportunity. You can play it safely, all these different things. Another example that I love from the nonprofit sector, the Tenant Museum in New York City is building an audience around a podcast. Great name too, right? How to Be an American. It's something that's very timely right now, and they're building an audience around that. Right on Cape Cod, where I live in Massachusetts, the Great White Conservancy down there has actually developed an app with over 200,000 people on it. And you know what they do? They plot where they see the sharks on Cape Cod so people know where they are, right? So they're building an audience around that. And then this one, I love this one too. One person shop again. Tom Harrison at the Bearology Museum has become the leading expert on bear and car collisions. All right? So if a car hits a bear, TV stations, newspapers, magazines call Tom and say, why do these things happen? How do we prevent them? And he has become a superstar in the field and built an audience around earned media by becoming an expert in a particular area. And think about it, as business owners, you could become experts on your cause so that people come back to you looking for information about that. Now, one of my favorites, though, is actually this email newsletter from the Arctic Institute. And they run a great newsletter talking about the Arctic this week, right? And they run their whole association through this. Now, I have to admit, I'm a little partial toward email. I like email. You know why? Because it's a belt and suspender approach. The truth is when you have someone's email, you have the best thing in the world. Facebook likes are nice, LinkedIn connections are nice, Twitter subscribers are nice, but the best thing to have is someone's email address, because then you're not impacted by algorithms. And let's face it too, a lot of social media now is pay for play, right? You got to pay to be on those networks. So come up with your own keystone content, something that you can emphasize. And think about what this does, right? So you have cause marketing at the top of the funnel, and then that content is the thing that takes people through the funnel and helps them make that connection. Just like with the Don't Buy This Jacket and Worn Wear, which reiterates the message and builds a stream of loyal customers for Patagonia. So I love this example too from Deer River Snacks. And what I like about their model, in addition to a donate profits though, is every bag goes to a different charity. But notice too, they're all different types of charities, right? So autism community tends to be a very tight-knit community. Then they have veterans groups. Then they have women, right, around breast cancer. So what's smart about this is every month they have something different to talk about on their social media handles. But you know what they could also do, and I don't think they've taken this step yet, they could create a single content channel for each one of these that they could go deeper in terms of building an audience either with the veteran community, the breast cancer community, or the autism community. Something that can be really, really powerful. So what I think is powerful about that, though, is they create a funnel for themselves, and then they do it again, they do it again, they do it again, and they do it again. A little slow here. All right, there we go. Or you could just work with Amanda, right? So you want to do purchase trigger programs, but you also want the promotion, right, Amanda? I mean, you guys have a turnkey solution. You've got all these things figured out. So if you don't want to do this yourself, most industries, I speak to industries all the time, they don't have something like Produce for Kids. And you know, I can attest to the fact, Amanda is really, really nice, okay? So she's a great person to work with. All right, so let's land this sucker, right? In terms of what we're talking about here. We've talked about, a lot of different things today. Looking forward to your questions. But one of the things we talked about today is what is cause marketing, right? Cause marketing is a partnership between a nonprofit and a for-profit for mutual profit. It's win-win. You're supposed to benefit. Cause marketing is not philanthropy. It's marketing. But you have to decide how much on the philanthropy side you may want to go. It depends on the passion that you have for the cause and whether you care or not if they have an audience or if they're going to grow your business. These are the types of things that you have to ask yourself when you're putting together a cause marketing partnership. But no one will blame you for doing the marketing piece because it's marketing as long as you do it well. So cause marketing is a legitimate part of the marketing mix. Just because you maybe don't do it doesn't mean it's not important, and doesn't mean that it doesn't recruit customers and make them more loyal, because it does, especially millennials and moms, two key audiences that you want to focus on. Another thing that we talked about is using the TWA model here so that you can pick a nonprofit. And like I said, there's no right place to start here, but what I always suggest is to consider the other side. So if you're working with a nonprofit, maybe you think about also doing a cause, or maybe you think about doing another nonprofit, or maybe your first nonprofit is a passion play, but your next nonprofit is more for audience and for marketing. There's a lot of different ways that you can come at it. So, and then the final piece here, folks, is the keystone content asset is that, and this is the thing that I think is most important and where most businesses fall down, is they don't do a good job communicating to their audience, okay, about the different cause initiatives. And what we know, study after study, people say they want you to communicate what they're doing. They want to know about the cause initiatives. They don't want you bragging about it, but they want to know what you're doing. Okay, and then one of the final things I mentioned in my presentation was about all the different ways that you can raise money, right, with a nonprofit. I only talked about two of them, purchase trigger donations and donate profits, but I also mentioned like point of sale programs. There are a bunch of these here. So what I suggest is I have a book out, right, and I'm not even going to ask you to buy that book. All you got to do is drop your business card here on the lectern, and I will send you an electronic version of the book that you can check out. And it also, what's nice about it too, is I am actually one of 3 men on Pinterest, okay? There's no shame in that, right? Men belong on Pinterest just like anyone else. We're growing that audience. There's only 3 of us. But I have over 5,000 cause marketing programs organized by type of campaign on Pinterest, and the book actually correlates with it really nicely. So you can see examples. So if I'm up here saying charity pinups, you're like, Joe, what's charity pinups, right? And I will send that to you, and I will not sign you up for anything or anything like that. You can, I promise, as a Bostonian, right? As a Bostonian, I wouldn't do that, right? So let me leave you on a very serious note, all right? Serious time with Uncle Joe, call it. What's the most important thing I want you to remember? I'm from Boston, and I'm a winner, okay? Now, the fact is, we're in the Southeast here. You're not dealing with a lot of winners, okay? Falcons, Braves, Dolphins, right? Not going to be a winner on the field. But the truth is those games aren't important, because what's really important is what happens off the field. And with cause marketing, you can make a difference in people's lives. Your employees will like it, and your customers will love it. So in the Super Bowl of cause, you can all be winners. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to take some questions. Have some questions about, and even if you have a program that you're currently doing that you would like to tell the audience about, I would love to hear it. Don't be shy. We got, no? What about over here? All right, we got one over here. Or you could just tell me why your team is going to beat my team next year. I think it really depends on whether we have Brady or not, right?
Yeah, thanks for a nice presentation. Any suggestions coming from the nonprofit side on what to think about if trying to partner with the business in the fashion you've just described?
Yeah, it's interesting. And what's your name? Andy. I spend most of my time talking to nonprofits about this very issue and stuff like that. The challenge with nonprofits is they don't have a lot of choice, right? They only can work with the companies that come to them. So they may think to themselves like, I'm going to target this company or that company, but it usually doesn't work that way. What usually happens is a nonprofit is already working with a company in some way, and then they go to them and say, hey, will you take that extra step and do a cause marketing program with them? But one of the things that I really emphasize with nonprofits nonprofits now is I used to talk a lot about just cause marketing in general, but Andy, what I'm focusing on more now with people is the audience building piece. Like, you know, if you want companies to come to you, companies are looking for audiences, right? You know, one of the reasons that companies work with so many veterans groups is they know that first responders are loyal to their brands, right? So that's what they're looking for. So if you have an audience over there, companies are going to say, hey, there's an audience over there that I want to work with. And that's what I advise nonprofits. Don't be so focused on recruiting corporate partners as attracting them, right, to your organization. And the way you're going to do that is by building an audience. Did that answer your question? Yes. Okay, good. Other questions? No? None?
I have one.
Go ahead.
So what can happen if you connect disingenuously with a charity?
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, you actually don't see it as much as maybe you think you would, you know what I mean, like with doing that. But the challenge is, and you know, I always advise nonprofits this, is like, you know, if a business comes to you and the only thing they're thinking about is goosing sales, that's like a total red flag for you as a nonprofit, you know? But on the other hand too, you know, there's a lot of nonprofits that come to you and you want to work with them, but I think what more businesses are asking smart questions around is like, hey, what can you do for me? You know, I know how I can help you, but how can you help me? And let the nonprofit articulate that. And let them talk about their audience and whether or not they can connect them with them. And you know, what's interesting, I think even if you look at large nonprofits, like large voluntary health organizations, part of the challenge with them is they have a big audience, but they really don't have an engaged audience, right? So in general, that's where you really want to work with your nonprofit partners. So, you know, I'll meet with a for-profit and they'll be like, I want to work with children's causes. So then what we do is identify children's causes that they're passionate about, but also have a great audience, right? But some people you go to, they're like, nope, I want to work with this particular charity. Yeah. So, question here.
Is there too many? I mean, how do you choose the right amount?
The too many.
Well, I mean, like when you're choosing causes, because we do Produce for Kids.
Yeah.
Tell you, man, it's nice.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
I also have a passion for.
That's right. Well, you know, you know what it is, and I think, what's your name?
Mike.
Mike. Okay, so you know, one of the things I think you're thinking about with something like that too is there another audience that you want to cultivate, right? See, that's what I would be thinking about, in the sense like I would think about the Produce for Kids audience that you have through that. But if you were like, you know what, I want to target specifically veterans because that's maybe something that's authentic to my, you know, my brand or something like that. That's when I would think about working with another cause. And that's what you really see is companies are getting much more strategic about like, okay, I'm working for this cause. I may be working for this cause because I have a real passion for it, but I'm working with this cause because they have a great audience and they do great work, right? You know, for something like that. So I think it really depends on what you want to accomplish at a brand. But the truth is like, look, if you're just like, look, I want to give money away, I want to do great things for causes and stuff like that, sticking with someone like Produce for Kids is great. But you could add an additional cause if you wanted to target a specific audience. You know, and that's what I would think about. There was another question?
So you shouldn't feel bad because I'm from Houston.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to
Talk
cheating,
about cheaters,
the
huh?
the only thing about that is we won the World Series. Then when we taught Boston how to cheat, and then they beat us.
That's
the
right.
next year.
You know, that's the
It's
problem,
tough
right?
one.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm with Brighter Bites, and like these guys here, we're a program that feeds kids produce in order to try to help them get healthy.
Yep.
And we're expanding to a lot of different cities and everything like that. And we're working hard on trying to communicate. You know, I come from for-profit. So
Yeah.
when you go from for-profit to non-profit, there's
Yeah.
some huge lessons learned.
Right.
It's better to be a buyer than ask for money.
Yeah.
So what we're struggling, we're all struggling with what kind of narrative to use
Right.
to be able to try to target the right people. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we all tend to be really broad,
Yeah.
and we're out there. So, I mean, you're talking about it. How do you narrow down your message to get to the right people? How do you even go about that?
That's right. And I think what I would explore with you on something like that, and what's your name, Rich, is Rich, what I would look at too is what is your content asset? How are you using what are you using, and is that the right medium for the audience that you want to reach, right? So if I was thinking about like communicating with you and communicating to the right audience, I'd be like, first of all, are they promoting themselves? And most brands aren't in terms of doing their charitable work, but am I using the right channel for that audience too? And then you have to stop playing around with messaging and stuff. But you can do it, make that connection. And Rich, I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about that too, because I think there's kind of an extended answer on something like that. Yeah, and Mike, something Rich mentioned too, if you were interested in a specific area, that may be a good opportunity to target a nonprofit in that area. So if you're like, wow, I want to work with more people in Boston, what's a way of doing that? A cause may be able to help you do that. Yeah. Okay, was another question back here? Oh, one second, we'll get you.
I just want to address to that point, it's really basic to check out the retailer or whomever you want to partner with in a nonprofit, because it does work if you're really honing in on what their initiatives are.
Yeah.
And I've worked with trying to get a commodity in to a certain retailer, and nothing was working.
Yeah.
And finally, when I researched, I realized, well, if I partnered with Habitat for Humanity, and for every case, they received a certain percentage to build a house.
Right.
Then that was brilliant, because it was able to give them a real reason for consumers to buy the product.
That's right.
And it was a feel good for everyone all the way around.
That's right.
And
Yeah,
it
it creates a halo, right?
Yeah,
and
and that
a
moved the
lot of
product.
times with cause, it's difficult to pinpoint what's successful, and it's kind of like the guy at Kind Bars that invented Kind Bars. He was talking to me about this. Before he did Kind Bars, he actually had another product that was much more cause focused. And what he realized from that was you have to be focused on delivering a great product first, and then adding the cause. But his remark is that when you added cause in, it makes everything better, right, for the brand. And I think that's what you're kind of describing too.
Yeah, because it was a win-win for everyone all the way around. The
That's right.
Consumers were happy because they were buying this commodity, and they knew
That's right.
that it would be going towards building a house, Habitat for Humanity. So it worked out really well.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a great example. Yeah. And Martin, do you have a question over there?
Based in your experience, do you think that the consumers are willing to pay more for brands with this social concept?
That's a good question. I think that's a challenging. I think if they really feel strongly about a brand, like I think people who shop at like Patagonia and stuff like that, they're willing to pay more for the brand. But I do think that consumers in general, depending on your product, they're going to be cost conscious. But what the research shows is when you have a choice between two products at the same price, the same type of product, that consumers will support the one that is doing a cause. So, yeah, it does help in that regard. Any other questions? Yep, Randy in the back.
Thanks, Joe. You're wicked smart.
Well said. Now, see, Randy's from Massachusetts, so he can say things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the concerns that I had when I was in consumer products was nonprofits who would want to partner with you so that they could advance the money. And then, I mean, you have to do this for the right reason.
Yeah.
How do you walk that line
Yeah.
between, I'm just doing it to sell more cases,
Right.
and no, I'm just doing it to gain
Right.
more donations to the bottom line. You
That's
really
right.
have to have.
Yeah, and it's an interesting question, Randy, because I think it's different with every organization, right? The fact that if people feel like I've worked with companies that supported a cause just because they knew it was great marketing for their company. But you know what? That made them very passionate about it, and in turn they learned more about the cause and they became more passionate about what they were doing. But I think too, when you're first getting into it, you have to have a little bit of that passion for what you're doing. And a lot of times too, when we're dealing with companies, we're really looking for things that resonate with the C-level people, if not just the CEO, and then the employees too. Because, it's very important that you get your employees involved in something like that. But, it just speaks to a lot of the marketing programs down there. I mean, look at Nike's partnership with Kaepernick, right? Now, regardless of what you think about that, I mean, Nike may really be supportive of what Kaepernick represents. but they are making a business bet. They're saying we're preferring one type of audience over another type of audience. They're making a bet in their future. And I think that decision is much more driven by marketing than it is by altruism. Although the company may really feel that Kaepernick is right, right? So I think that's what every company has to kind of come to grips with is like, you know, are we on the right side of something like this? And the thing is as soon as you see that company or that cause interacting with one another, you can pick it up right away. Is this something that is really sincere, or is this something that is totally transactional and artificial and something that we want to stay away from? Yeah. So, any other questions? Okay, I'll be around for a little while. I'm happy to take them. Thank you for coming. Yes, and anyone who wants a copy of the book, you can drop your business card right here, and I'll get that out to you in a couple days. Thanks for your question, Rich.